Okay, we've got the wash on now. As you can see, it's a little messy, but that's all right because the goal here is not to worry about whether it went where it really wasn't supposed to, but to fill in all those crevices so that, as you can see, look, the check marks, the nicks, or whatever you want to call them, they stand out now. All right, all the crevices, all the detail, it all begins to pop. We will go back later now and do any fine adjustments with the glazes that they were so kind to make, and use this to feather off the edges, like say in between here and whatnot. What we're going to do now, though, is we're going to take our yellow here, sunburst yellow. I believe there's another yellow somewhere in the box, but a bright yellow. And anything that needs to be painted gold on this piece, which for me is going to be this trim right here, the trim on the hoof, the emblem right here, and the trim here, and of course the trim on this hoof here, are going to be painted yellow first. The reason for this is because when you wash your gold, if you do not put this nice bright yellow under the gold, then your gold will turn out to be really dull. Here's an example, as you can see, of the gold after it's washed. And you can see that the gold is still relatively bright even though we've washed it. Had I not washed it, had I not base coated it with a yellow before I put the gold on top, then this would be a very dark, dingy, all of it would more look like this tip there does than it does a nice bright, and then we've got the three-dimensional effect on this piece, as you can see. All right, so let's take our yellow and let's paint the stuff that needs to be painted gold yellow first. We want to be somewhat neat with this process. It's not ultimately absolutely a complete necessity that it's perfect, but it saves a lot of touch-up time if you're neat with it the first time instead of continuing to have to keep going back and touching up the stuff that you've messed up. Additionally, that piece of paper. So let's paint this yellow here really quick. Sometimes you have to go back and give it a second coat of yellow. It is just par for the course. I use a slightly larger brush to get all the large surfaces first. As you can see, I'm just skimming over surfaces. But I want to try not to get down into the wash here on the edge, because if I do, it will kind of ruin the natural lighting effect that the wash has already started to create. However, we are washing the gold again, so you will be touching it up again, but the point is we're trying to get a three-dimensional effect created here. And we're doing that by applying each wash as a progressive layers. By keeping a decent amount but not too much on, as you can see, the paint more or less just flows out of the brush as I drag it on, just barely touching it, and it just kind of drags it onto the surface there. I'm not so much trying to paint it, and hence this is where the flow improver, you actually see what the flow improver does here. It actually pulls and allows the paint to be pulled out of the brush without having to actually paint it on there, and also without thinning the paint out too much, which what you would do to get the same effect with by adding water. I'm going back here and add a little extra here because I want it nice and yellow. I want a good, nice yellow base. The yellow doesn't go clear to the edge, that's fine, because we want the edge to be darker anyway, so that when we put the wash in there, it will appear to be a shadow, and that will accentuate that crease there in the first place. Alright, there we go. I'll finish the rest of the on here and show you the finished. There we go, yellow. Later.